Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to this news hour on Equinoxe television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babli Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party, decries continuous human rights violations, notably in the context of the armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. The fight against the Boko Haram insurgency in the far north region of the country, and continuous crackdown on opposition political leaders and civil society, as well as right defenders in the country. We will bring to you details in this edition of the news. And out of the country, the National Democratic Institute urges the transition authorities in Guinea, politicians, the civil society and the media to work hand in glove to ensure a peaceful and credible transition and return to constitutional order in that African nation. The President of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, tenders his apology to his citizens for the recent fuel crisis and power cuts in his country. Stay with us. Once more, thank you for joining us at this news hour on Equinoxe television. We begin with news concerning human rights in the Republic of Cameroon. The civil society and political leaders are decrying continuous and increasing gross human rights violations, particularly in the context of the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon, which has lasted for more than 5 years. Today, the fight against the Boko Haram insurgency in the far north region of the country and continuous crackdown on political leaders and civil society and right defenders in the country. The political party of Professor Maurice Kamto has published the situational report of human rights in the Republic of Cameroon for 2021. We'll come back to this report in a short while. Time for us to take a look at another aspect of human rights violations and abuse in the Republic of Cameroon. I'm talking about human trafficking, an ill that is growing in the Cameroonian society today, especially within the context of the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, the Boko Haram insurgency in the far north, as well as other issues of instability across the country, socio-political instability across the country, and some civil society organizations are now striving to turn the tide, and leading those organizations is the peace arm of the Kumba diocese of the Roman Catholic Church in the northwest region of the country, which is galvanizing and equipping civil society leaders as well as journalists and lawyers with tools to fight human trafficking growing in the country. Take a listen to some of the experts in this domain.
In Cameroon is very alarming, and if I have to take the recent case of Mali, we have almost 1,000 Cameroonians in Mali, and those are a result of human trafficking. Human trafficking is a big problem in Cameroon. Why? Because when we start talking about human trafficking, we ask what exactly causes human trafficking. We say poverty. We talk about the economic situation. We talk about the political situation and the crisis. We know in the north of Cameroon, we have the Boko Haram issue. In the northwest and the southwest, we have the Anglophone problems. In the east also, we also have the refugee situation. All these are people that are vulnerable to being trafficked. Also, we talk about the economic situation of the country. A country like Cameroon, where the economic situation is really poor, where people do not have the basic necessities, they are forced now, and they are basically prone to be trafficked, especially forced labor, especially sexual exploitation and debt bondage. So Cameroon basically is prone to human trafficking, and a lot of it is going on now based on the situation of the country.
We can lay credence to statistics when we had the Kuwait saga in 2015. That's precisely we of the Justice and Peace Commission of the Diocese of Kumba we did a survey, we did investigation, and we had about 170 girls that were moved from Kumba diocese to the Middle East. And now with the current crisis in the northwest and southwest regions, it has increased because we have caregivers who have been killed. We also have people that houses have been burnt. We have so many displaced people. And now the protective environment, which is about the family, is no longer there. Families are separated, and the vulnerability has increased in the sense that we have children, we have parents now who don't even know what to do with their children. So the easiest way for them is to give out the children. So that's why when you get to Yaoundé, you get to Douala, you get to big towns around, you see so many Anglophone children on the streets. You find some of them as domestic workers. You find some of them in sex prostitution, simply because of this crisis. The protected environment is not more there. But this one now is difficult for us presently to have statistics on that. But we are still working on that. And that is one of the reasons why we thought that if we bring in all the stakeholders in the fight against human trafficking, we could be able to have a centralized data system base where we can actually put a hand to know how many children have been trafficked or how many persons have been trafficked in Cameroon.
Louisa Songwe, international criminal law expert and investigator, and Lukong Isidore, assistant coordinator, Kumba Diocese Justice and Peace Commission, speaking there. Now, for me, Armstrong Sander brings to us updates on the human rights situation of the Republic of Cameroon as seen by the eye of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party.
The three-chapter Cameroon Human Rights Situation Report highlights cases of gross human rights violations in the war in the Anglophone Northwest and Southwest regions, the war against Boko Haram in the Far North region, and crackdown on dissent elsewhere in Cameroon. In the report, the CRM political party asks the international community to note and act on the rights of civilians violated by belligerent parties to the conflict in the Northwest and Southwest regions, taking cases like the torture meted by some gendarmerie officers on Zhangfai Mbungong in Du subdivision in January 2021, to the killing of the principal of Government Bilingual High School O'Shea and the head teacher of Government High School Tinto in the Manu division of the Southwest region, reportedly by non-state armed groups fighters. The CRM party said thousands of gross rights violations were documented in the Anglophone regions in 2021. Same with the war against Boko Haram in the Far North region of Cameroon.
All these persons will return to Cameroon regime and say that there are some reports concerning the situation of violation of human rights in Cameroon. And I also think that it is by writing this kind of report that things will change. I'm not saying that everything is going to change immediately, totally, but all the persons involved in this kind of violation of human rights, I am sure that they will try their best to avoid to do the same thing next time.
Denouncing poor detention conditions and torture of its incarcerated supporters, the Cameroon Renaissance Movement political party exemplified with the case of Saul Stefan, tortured by a prison guard at the Newberg Central Prison on December 21st, 2021.
Around 22nd of September 2020, concerning the passive manifestation. And until then, they are in jail, and most of them are passing in front of military court. There are some of them who have been sentenced to stay in prison, some for three years, some others, like I don't forget, Musa, for 7 years. But the party is trying its best to make them free. And we are also giving them social assistance by looking for them every day. All of them, they are not eating food for the prison.
The report further condemns attacks and threats on rights defenders and journalists using the cases of Maximilian Gombe of Redag, Human Rights Watch, and a journalist of a sister private television channel of the city of Douala who was attacked and violated at the Yaoundé 6 Council. The report also frowns at the impunity of human rights violators in Cameroon.
Rights abused and violated by human beings. Rights also trampled upon by wild flames. Several persons have seen the right to shelter, the right to dignity and livelihood threatened by wild flames in Kumba, in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, notably at Mbanya Street. Wild flames rendered some persons homeless and deprived them of their belongings, as Manjikan Gabriel reports.
Another ugly day for the inhabitants of Mbanya Street in Kumba 2 subdivision, Meme division of the southwest region, as fire destroyed several rooms in a compound. Witness accounts say the incident has been linked to poor connection of electricity cables and the unstable state of the power supply in the town of Kumba for several years now.
This supply for current where they bring an honor off.
The instability of power supply is the main problem. I was home today. It happened 4 times. I'm also telling my people to have very good connections because poorly done electrification will also lead to such problems.
So if this kind of light way can honor off, so you just see it go all even most of you see what will happen here. So even a block has enough for this.
4 out of the 8 living rooms found in the compound located at Mbanya Street were damaged by the inferno. Due to the intervention of the firefighters unit of Kumba, the inferno was controlled as some other neighbors managed to remove some of their belongings. Material damages were, however, enormous. This is the second consecutive fire incident that is happening at Mbanya Street on a Thursday.
The littoral regional delegates of basic and secondary education are striving to get the teachers back into their classrooms and to take up their chalks and pens and continue with the teaching and learning process as the strike action of teachers nationwide continues. The delegates met with some principals of some of the schools in the littoral region here in Douala today, and Malaglory files in details.
Teachers are not willing to go back to the classroom due to the slow action of government solution to the ongoing crisis. To encourage them, the regional delegate for basic and secondary education met this Thursday in the littoral region to negotiate with the striking teachers. A meeting that was held behind closed doors had principals, the governor and other government officials.
The revendication of the teachers are real, and that's why the government in a very short time decided to do everything so that at the end of this month the salaries that were at the level of 2/3 should be paid entirely, and that the teachers who have not had their integration to be taken in consideration, and the other measures will be following by the coming month. But on the field, some of the teachers who say that they have suffered a lot are not willing to go back to classes, and that's why the governor have called.
According to the regional delegate for basic education, teachers should count on the president's promise and regain their classrooms.
Mainly here today we had principals who have presented the situation. We think that with the sensitization that has to be going on, and that nobody has to doubt on the president's instruction that teachers have to go back to class, because we are sure that the instruction of the President of the Republic will be implemented.
While the school children still loiter around, teachers wait on the government to revive the dead chalk.
Right, that was Malaglory reporting there on efforts by administrative authorities in the littoral region of the country, spearheaded by Littoral Governor Samuel Dieudonné Ivaha Dibois, and of course the regional delegates of basic and secondary education. Efforts intended to get the teachers back into their classrooms, efforts to compel the teachers, or better still to persuade the teachers to pick up their chalks and their pens and continue with the teaching and learning process that has been interrupted for more than 3 weeks today, and this is the 4th week of interruption of academic activities in secondary and government secondary and basic schools across the Republic of Cameroon. The strike action started with secondary schools, government secondary schools, and later continued with the basic education sector, with the spillover effect, forcing some teachers in the basic education sector to also move out of the classrooms and put down their chalks and pens, saying enough is enough, decrying poor treatment by the education authorities in the country, notably treatment related to the salary advancement in their career, and of course allowances which have not been paid for several years. Some of them have taught for 10, 15, 18 years and more without receiving these allowances. Some of them have even died without receiving these allowances, this money due or owed them by the government of the Republic of Cameroon. It is the case of the teacher in government high school, Beka. It is in the far north region of the country. The teacher who died recently after working for more than 10 years without receiving a dime from the state, as far as the money owed him, salaries, and of course allowances. And the government authorities are also working in view of putting down or bringing down the nationwide strike action. The Minister of Labour and Social Security, Gregoire Warner, has been meeting with the leaders of the strike action in the nation's political capital, though some of the leaders presented as those spearheading the strike action apparently were never in a classroom, have never taught. One of them who's been working in the Ministry of Secondary Education in Yaoundé, and it was dismissed by the teachers' trade unions, notably the leaders of the OTS movement, the movement that says on a true supporting. We have stayed for a long time bearing the brunt, bearing the sufferings and the poor treatment, and of course they have been discussing with government authorities in view of finding solutions to the strike action of teachers. In the meantime, there have been condemnation from across the board, notably from civil society and political leaders, as well as right defenders, notably defenders of the right to education, who have been condemning the poor treatment of teachers in the government schools across the Republic, in both the basic and secondary education sectors, and have been raising concerns. They have been raising concerns about the impact of this on the academic year, the current academic year, and there have been worries about a possible blank year and the impact of this strike action on the performance of students in both transitional and official examination classes, but more so those in official examination classes, those preparing for official examinations, including the GC, the General Certificate of Education, ordinary and advanced levels, and the BEPC, Brevet d'études du premier cycle, and of course the baccalaureate in the French subsystem of education. On to something else now. We are talking about the situation in Guinea Conakry, and the National Democratic Institute is urging transition authorities in Guinea Conakry, political leaders, civil society leaders, and the media to work hand in glove to ensure a credible and peaceful transition and return to constitutional order. Innocent has more.
Citizens' priorities during the Guinea-Conakry's transition process following the coup d'etat of September 5, 2021, and exploring possibilities for technical assistance to civilian-led institutions and the civil society organizations working to ensure an inclusive, transparent, and credible transition were the pulling factors of the National Democratic Institute's mission to Guinea-Conakry from March 9 to the 15th. While in Guinea-Conakry, the NDI delegation, driven by Dr. Christopher Fomunyo, Associate and Regional Director of Central Africa, met with the transition president, Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, cabinet members, coalition political party leaders, civil society organizations, the media, and others. With regards to findings, the NDI delegation says it's noted that the Guinean people unanimously expect return of the country to constitutional order and democratic rule in a timely manner after a constitutional and electoral reforms and inclusive and transparent polls. It also observed that most Guinean people stand for meaningful dialogue, a very low level of women's representation and inclusiveness within Guinea's transition institutions. The NDI delegation, among other things, also noted a lack of clarity on the transition timeline and order of priorities during the transition period. Some recommendations were made to Guinean transition authorities, with some being use of this historic opportunity to lead by example by organizing constitutional and electoral reforms and conducting democratic elections in a timely and transparent manner. Release of a transition timeline to provide more clarity and focus to actions by government entities, political parties, civil society, and other stakeholders that will enhance confidence and citizen participation and hence guarantee the success of the transition. Safeguard citizens' rights and liberties, including freedom of speech and pluralism of opinions. Initiate and maintain a robust, nimble and inclusive consultation process among the major stakeholders without duplicating transitional institutions and or their competencies in order to foster better and stronger lines of communication with political and civic stakeholders. Take deliberate steps to include women in transitional institutions and develop gender-sensitive policies, including in constitutional and electoral reforms. Prioritize reforms that will demonstrate the military's public commitments to return the country to civilian democratic rule and establish consensus around significant issues. Publish the list of members of the CNRD in order to enhance transparency and confidence among the people. The NDI delegation also recommended to politicians, civil society, and the media in Guinea-Conakry to collaborate positively in their various actions with the transition authorities to bring back the country on its constitutional rails, peacefully, transparently, credibly, and inclusively.
The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, has apologized for the hardship caused by recent fuel crisis and the power cut that followed this week's collapse of the national grid. The incident left the entire nation without state-supplied electricity for hours. President Muhammadu Buhari said his government is working round the clock with the sector to increase the supply of fuel. He says he has directed the Petroleum Ministry, the state-owned oil company NNPC, and security agencies to take strong actions against owners of petrol stations and officials of depots who are not behaving properly, making reference to those involved in corruption. The shortage is the worst since President Muhammadu Buhari came to power nearly 70 years ago, and the government is being severely criticized for not doing enough to address the problem. Nigeria generates too little electricity to supply its population of 200 million. Demand is generally turning around 400 or 4,000 megawatts a day. Though it is Africa's largest oil producer, Nigeria's oil refineries are not working to capacity, so crude oil is exported and refined products imported, and imported fuel became scarce last month after measures were taken to quarantine millions of liters of adulterated fuel already in the market. This is because the methanol blended petrol had begun damaging vehicles. Now in sports, the champions of the 2021 Cameroon Cup finals have arrived in Bamenda. PWD Bamenda emerged champion after several years, and the Public Works Department football arrived the Northwest region this afternoon to present the trophy to the people of Bamenda and the entire Northwest region of the country. It is the first time that football club is coming to the top of the Cameroon Cup. It's emerging champion. PWD defeated Astro of Douala last Sunday 1-0 to win the cup in their third attempt at the finals. PWD Bamenda is expected to take the cup around the town after going through the Northwest Governor's office, and of course the PWD team of Bamenda arrived the Northwest Regional Capital earlier today. We should be having images of the arrival of PWD in Bamenda earlier today on air, and of course the people welcome their team with a lot of excitement and of course celebration as the the team PWD brings home the Cup of Cameroon this year. And of course, I said it earlier, it is the first time PWD Bamenda is emerging champion of the Republic of Cameroon. It's a team that has gone through very difficult times, and the people of Bamenda are celebrating the cup. They're happy with the cup brought home by their team, but they are also demanding that some sports infrastructures, notably stadia, should be constructed in Bamenda, should be constructed in the Northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. This is the cry of the people of Bamenda. This is the cry of the people of the Northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. And of course, we shall be coming back to this subsequently. And I said supporters of PWD Bamenda say they want a modern stadium in the Northwest region of the country, and this they voiced this demand, this concern during the Elite One Championship game in the Buda against Bambutus FC, and PWD Bamenda was defeated. As Manjikan Gabriel reports.
It was day one of the Elite One Championship in Cameroon as the battle of which club to replace Cotton Sport of Garoua began at the Mbuda Arena Stadium this Wednesday. Bambutus of Mbuda had the opportunity to host the recently crowned Cup of Cameroon winners, PWD of Bamenda. Amongst the numerous supporters present at the field were those of the Abakwa boys. Just like they did during the final of the Cameroon Cup, the supporters of PWD Bamenda were again requesting that a modern football field should be constructed in Bamenda. This time around, they were directing their worries to the president of the Cameroon Football Federation, Samuel Etofis. Apart from PWD Bamenda, Young Sports Academy is another Elite One club in the Northwest region. The Northwest also counts two clubs, Rangers and Foncha Street, in the Elite Two Championship, but don't have a modern stadium.
After a 1-0 defeat against Astro of Douala, the Cameroon Cup final, the Bako boys suffered a 0-1 defeat against Bambutus of Buda in the opening encounter of the Elite One Championship in Buda. Talking point up next. Unfortunately, due to some technical reasons, we're not going to have talking point today. We'll be back tomorrow. Stay with us.